Often considered one of the greatest writers of dark romanticism, Edgar Allan Poe captivated people's minds with tales of gothic horror and mystery. He was a master of the short story and also of poetry. Some of his most famous works include The Raven and The Telltale Heart. But despite his fame as a writer, most people don't know that Poe has a history in Westford as well.
The history of this residence, 11 Graniteville Road, is that it was occupied back in the early mid-1800s by the Richmond family. And Mrs. Charles Richmond was also known as Nancy Haywood, whom Edgar Allan Poe referred to in his poems as Annie. So you had Nancy Haywood living here and Edgar Allan Poe visiting here to visit her back in the summer of 1848, where he died soon thereafter.
The story goes that while visiting friends in Lowell, Massachusetts, Poe was introduced to Nancy Haywood, the oldest daughter of the Haywood family.
The Haywood family and the Richmond family were actually bigger families in town. They had multiple residences around the town. The group that introduced them from Lowell actually felt that the Haywoods and the Richmonds were sophisticated enough for him to meet them.
Unfortunately for Poe, Nancy was already married to Charles Richmond. Nevertheless, Poe was obsessed with Nancy Haywood. It is believed that his poem, For Annie, was written about Nancy Haywood, with Annie being Poe's nickname for her. Poe writes, "But my heart it is brighter than all of the many stars in the sky, for it sparkles with Annie. It glows with the light of the love of my Annie, with the thought of the light of the eyes of my Annie." Nancy was also a musician and a music teacher in Westford. According to Robert Oliphant in his book The Westford Gazetteer, Poe also gave readings at the Haywood Reading Circle and enjoyed exploring Westford. He visited Westford several times in 1848 and 1849.
And he loved the area. He loved Prospect Hill. And then again, he had his infatuation with Nancy Haywood, or Mrs. Charles Richmond at the time, so who lived at this house. So between this house and maybe Lowell, maybe a few other spots in between, they're not quite sure. But that's where, when he was out here, that's where they say he stayed.
Sadly, Poe died shortly after, in October of 1849, at the age of 40. The house was built in the 1700s by Thomas Blodgett, and the Haywood family lived here for many years. The main part of the house burned down in 1900, but the shed and barn were left standing, and were converted into the current home. A granite marker in the front yard commemorates Poe's visit to Westford.